I recently created a vegan protein database with over 200 entries, so I thought I'd spend this video showing you how to use it and why it might be useful to you. You can find it on my website, proteindeficientvegan.com, by clicking on the Best Vegan Proteins button. Or if you're on mobile, you can click on the drop-down and find Best Vegan Proteins. There's this expandable section that walks through how to use it if you need to reference that later. First, I want to talk through the sortable fields. All of the fields that you see in the top row are sortable, though I probably wouldn't sort by food or link to buy. The first one is protein percentage on a calorie basis. This is how many calories of your food come from protein. This will really help you if you're meal planning or just trying to figure out where to get the best bang for your buck calorie-wise. As you can see, the top entry is Say Grace, which comes in around 95% protein. The thing I really like about the table is you can compare the cost on a grams of protein per dollar basis. So you can check out the 5-pound bucket of Say Grace is actually about 25% cheaper than their normal sized bags. If you're interested in learning more about a product, you can always click on the link to the right and it'll take you where I got my reference data. In the expandable section underneath the product, I also list if I know of any other places to buy the product cheaper, or if there are any codes I know of or subscriptions that would save you money. Speaking of money, the next sortable field is cost on a grams of protein per dollar basis. I think this is probably the most useful piece of the table if you're on a budget. Obviously, there are going to be some pretty predictable foods that you see like dried lentils and dried beans, but I bet there are a couple that surprise you as well. I really like the grams of protein per dollar basis because I think it really normalizes the data and allows you to fairly compare foods. I will note that all of the pricing information I used was not sale prices, which I thought was a more fair comparison. I thought I'd take this time to point out that Vital Wheat gluten is actually very high on the grams per dollar basis, but also very high on the protein percentage. So this could be a really good option if you're trying to save money and still hit your protein goal. As you can see, I compared a 25-pound bag to a 4-pound bag, and the price doesn't change too much. As always, if you want to learn more about the product, you can click on the link. But if you want to learn how you can use it in recipes, you can actually go to the recipe part of my website or just the search bar and search for it. So we could search for Vital Wheat gluten and all of the recipes that use Vital Wheat gluten would come up. I think this could be a pretty good way for you to meal plan if you're trying to hit your protein on a budget. You can go through the recipes and see what other ingredients are used. For example, on these banana bread seitan cookies, it's pretty much bananas and Vital Wheat gluten and a few other things you probably have around the house for baking. So those would be a really good option for high protein snacks that are also cheap. Going back to our table and searching by cost again, I wanted to point out TVP, textured vegetable protein. Now this one is actually a pretty big difference between the 25-pound bag and the 1.5-pound bag. So I just wanted to show you how you can search and compare like products. Basically just type in TVP or whatever in the search field and click enter and it'll show you anything that has TVP in the name. I thought this was a pretty interesting example since the 25-pound bag is almost half as cheap on a grams per dollar basis. I wanted to point out also that in the expandable section, I have additional comments. And so if it is like a single ingredient, I'll usually have some information on how you would use it. But of course, you can also go to the recipe page, search by category. For example, we just picked TVP in the category. We can't see the drop down for some reason, but it's there. And then you can kind of look through the recipes and see which ones might be cheaper or within your budget. I think the TVP and black bean enchiladas is a good option, mostly because black beans came up on our list for cheap, and so did TVP. Going back to the table, you can also sort by grams of protein per 100 gram basis. Now, this isn't something I use very often, but I know a lot of people look at food through this lens. So it's there if you want it. The next sortable option is dollar per 100 calories, and I think this is another really good one if you're trying to eat protein on a budget. This will tell you what is the most affordable option to get your calories and still get in some protein. Lastly is calories per 100 gram. This could be useful data if you're bulking and trying to eat the least amount of food possible, or if you're on a cut and trying to get the best, most high volume foods. Next, we'll talk about filters. We have a category filter. I selected beans and lentils, even though it didn't show you my drop down. So this will just show you everything that falls into the category of beans and lentils. You can actually select multiple categories at once. Some of the other categories are fridge staples, grains, meat alternatives, nuts and seeds, pantry staples, pasta and breads, protein bars, protein powders, protein shakes, snacks, and vegetables. I actually think this category selection is pretty helpful if you're trying to figure out which protein bar is the best on a protein percentage, or, which pantry staple is the best bang for your buck on a protein grams per dollar basis. Then you can just remove the filter by just clicking on the text that shows what is filtered. We also have a filter for storage requirements. This will show you fridge, freezer, short-term shelf stable, long-term shelf stable. I think this could be really useful for anyone who has storage limitations, like you don't have a freezer, you don't have a fridge, and then you can sort by what is just shelf stable. The next filter is effort required. The options are preparation required. This would be like single ingredient items like TDP or Vital Wheat gluten. Ready to go, which would be like snacks. Warm up, which would be like your meat alternatives that live in the freezer. I think this could be a really helpful filter for anyone that doesn't have like a full kitchen to cook with and is just looking for things to take on the go or easy things they can just heat up. Could also be good for if you're on a road trip and you just need to travel with some snacks. The last filters are soy-free, nut-free, and gluten-free. And once again, you can select multiple filters at the same time. So if you're soy-free and nut-free, you can select both of those. I should probably note that all of this is manual data entry. So if I got something wrong, let me know. I am not a robot and I'm prone to mistakes. Probably the last thing about the table to mention is there's this expandable section for each food. In the expanded section, I list the category, storage, effort required, if it's soy-free, nut-free, gluten-free, the date it's been updated. I also have an additional comment section where I list any of my tips on how to use the product or like what I like to use it in. And then there's a reference section where I list where I got my pricing information and if I have any tips on where you could get it cheaper or if there's any codes or subscriptions I'm aware of. We're planning to create a form so that you can submit any foods that should be added to the table. We're actually hoping that will round out some of the places outside of the US for information, hoping we'll be able to crowdsource some information. So if you're from a country outside of the US, keep a lookout for that form because I think your data would be very helpful for the table. If you have any feedback on how to make the table better, you can drop a comment below or shoot me a message. As always, if you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe to see more.